Hi, welcome back to another Terranscapes video. I want to welcome everybody who is a new viewer and those of you who are returning. Welcome very much. I hope you find something on this channel that is entertaining or informative or eccentric and you like eccentric. And I just want to say I was really blown away by the responses I got from my last video. People were really encouraging and enthusiastic, and I just want to say thank you to everybody. I found that really motivating. I just want to thank everybody for taking the time to leave those responses. And just before we go any further, I just want to remind you that there are timestamps down below. Here's a little graphic to remind you. And because there's different sections of the video, I got the viewer comments and the cocktail and, other things, I'm trying my best to make sure that you can find the sections that interest you the most. So this video today is what I'm calling, it's a new format. I'm calling it the Join Me at the Bench videos. And these are where I set up the cameras and I shoot what it is I'm working on. This video style I first tested with my patrons on Patreon and got a lot of great feedback. You'll hear me praise them in this video because actually this was going to be my second test video for Patreon, and I decided I would just upload it to YouTube. I know some of you wish to see a little bit more of the actual work in construction, and this is a way where I can just have a nice tight view of the work that I'm doing and give you a little span of time to watch. And also I use it to kind of, go on about different things related to either the thing I'm working on or other topics. My patrons had made some suggestions before, and so that's what I kind of used to guide me in this video. So it's brand new. I think you'll like it. But it's a little longer, so it's kind of the thing you put in the back, while you're painting maybe. And along the way, I also add in bells when I put up an annotation, so you don't have to be constantly looking at the screen. It's just like, ding! Oh, Mike's got something on the screen. You can go check it out there. I'll be posting the full length of these videos on Patreon, so they're a little bit longer on Patreon, but I keep all of the work in my video for YouTube. So the extras that are in the Patreon version is a little bit more of my musings or personal reflections or thoughts about something, but the bulk of the work is shown in the YouTube video. So if you want to see more into my mind, the Patreon version is available. One quick thought. I've had people mention Twitch before, and I think actually my last video has a comment about maybe getting onto Twitch. I talk about it in this video a little bit. So if you are fluent in Twitch setup and shooting and all of the associated skills, and you want to watch the video, a little bit of everything has to come together for that to happen. Feel free to send me messages or something if you feel like you can help, and all those questions that I have will be explained in the video in just a little bit. But before we get there, there is a cocktail of the evening. Tonight's cocktail is a Martinez. I recently went to a party and there was talk about having cocktails at the party, and then the hosts were like, we can't bother, and I said, fine, I'm gonna bring a bar. So I brought stuff to just make gin-based drinks, and I had to go and do some I don't know, what kind of drinks can I make? And I happened to have this liqueur in my cabinet called Cherry Pie. It's a cherry liqueur. It's a little bit but I thought, I've got to find some way to be able to use it. So I found a couple drinks that do use it with gin. So this is a Martinez. It's 2/3 of an ounce sweet vermouth, brain fry, 1 3/4 gin, 2 dashes of orange bitters, and a spoonful of cherry liqueur, in this case cherry pie, served without ice. It's interesting. It's nice, but that cherry is so strong. I dribbled. I didn't measure a spoon, and I went, oh, you know what? And I think it is just a little too much cherry on it, but it's complex because it has a lot of different flavors kind of competing or blending. they feel a little competitive, actually. The bitters going against the cherry and the gin. It's not a drink I will be revisiting very often, despite my compulsion to find some way to use up my cherry pie. So, in any case, let's jump into the video and see what the new Join Me at the Bench format is, knowing there's already a bunch of improvements because I shot this. Did I say this? I shot this months and months ago. Like a while ago. So I've already got lots of improvements set up, and things are, you know, I'm excited for the format because I'm like, oh, I can't wait. I'm going to drill this down. So this is, you know, think of this as like a rough draft. All right. So after my first test video on sort of Join Me at the Bench, I got a ton of feedback from you guys. I super appreciate it. Your feedback was really helpful. It was motivating. So I just want to say thank you for that. And I'm going to give it another go here. I've changed up a few things. There's a furnace running in the background. I don't know if the furnace is going to be picked up. I've turned down the audio a little bit so that I don't clip as much because I'm known to be a little loud. But if you do hear that hum in the background, it's going to stop in a few minutes. If I wait to shoot around the furnace, it's just really awkward. So one of the requests that I got was to, you know, show some different things that I do, you know, as opposed to just painting. And what's weird is, you know, some of the activities I do are very rare. They don't happen very often. In fact, most things I do doesn't happen very often because I'm always doing something different. But I thought you would like to see this. This is my Mantic army. I have a tournament to go to tomorrow. It's the first time I will have played in probably about an hour. And I've been rebasing my Games Workshop army, my Warhammer army, to work with Mantic. And Mantic has, you know, the ability to mount all of your units on a single tray. It's element-based, and I love that. Can I just say, I love Kings of War so much better than Warhammer Fantasy. I know it's a little bit controversial, but it depends on what you like, but I love it. And part of the reason is I can just mount everybody to a tray, and this is an example here. This is a regiment of zombies. So this is an example of when they're mounted. I haven't flocked it any, of course, but now, you know, it's like I can just store that. I don't have to worry about models falling off. I don't have to put magnets on them. Of course, I say that, but I've had to cut every base and do tons of manipulation to get it all together. And the problem, of course, is working in between all the models. That's a trick. Nice thing is I don't have to have the full 20 that the regiment would normally hold, so I've dropped it down a few so I can have a few spaces. And to me, that still looks totally full. When you have like 20 guys on a base like this, it looks so crowded. It's like, how do they even fight? Anyway, so today I need to finish a ton of stuff, so I'm not working today, and I didn't work yesterday, and I don't know why I do this. I get a little obsessive, and I couldn't put getting the army done out of my mind. Hold on, I gotta get a cup. And so I said, basically I said, I'm gonna just do my army and get it hopefully almost all done for the tournament. I still need to paint the knights that go on this. They're mostly painted. They just need a few more things picked out on them. And then I've got a unit of whites that I need to finish basing, and anyway, there's still a ton of work to do. I got a late start today because I slept late, because I was up late working on it. My sleep schedule is always so messed up. I'm going to try next week again to get it back online. Ugh, that's more intro than you probably needed, but this is Join Me at the Bench. You hear what I've got to hear. Oh, so another good suggestion I got was to maybe have a topic to discuss while I'm working. So maybe the topic will be a little bit of my thinking about painting models and building an army, maybe playing games, playing tournaments, something like that. And if you don't play games, well, you know, it won't be the only thing I talk about. How's that? Oh, and I just want to thank Josh. He was he was the only person who commented on the bell when I put in annotations. He seemed to like that, and I really appreciate that, because I figure you're not going to want to stare at the screen for the whole, hour. And this way, if I have some little comment, I can just be like, hey, if you're interested in my comment, take a quick peek at the screen. So I'm going to keep that in place. All right, so I need to get to work on this instead of jabbing all the time. Just to let you know. So this is Sculptamold. Sculptamold is I've talked about it in videos in the past many times. It's a plaster of Paris fiber mix. It's basically like ground paper mache. I think of it as the wonder material because it can do everything. It can you can use it as an adhesive to bond rocks to foam. You can use it to make rock texture. You can use it as a filler. You can do multiple different kinds of textures with it. It's just so versatile. I have a 25-pound box of it, and I never feel like I bought too much. The one thing about it is it's a little dusty, and people always worry about oh, what are you using for personal protection? Are you wearing gloves or and it's like the chemicals I work with are not anywhere near as damaging probably to my health as the fine particulates I inhale. But you know what? I'm not going to wear a dust mask all day when I'm working, or I don't want to put it on, take it off. It's a pain in the ass. I'm going to take my personal safety into my own hands. Personal safety has never been a high priority for me. I'll just put it that way. But if you are concerned about a lot of dust inhalation, then maybe a little dust mask while you mix it up. It doesn't hurt. That's kind of why I kind of wet it a little bit evenly before I start mixing it. It helps knock that down. Now in this case, I am trying to mix this barely wet so that it dries faster because I need to work on this base later, and that can take a lot of time to dry if it's really wet, and it's going to shrink more, and it's pretty resistant to shrinking, but it will shrink some, and I have had some of the larger bases start to bow a little bit from it. It's not a big deal. And a couple of them I just bent backwards and cracked it, and it was fine. But I am trying for this. This is a little bit too. That's a little bit too stiff. But you got to be really stingy with the water that you add, because it's easy to just over wet it again. It's very susceptible to the amount of water you put in it, if that makes any sense at all. The consistency is. This is an odd thing too. Thinking about the camera setup while I do this, is that I moved the overhead cam to be directly overhead. We'll see how that works out. I kind of wanted to give you more of a sort of an over-the-shoulder look, but my head was in the way, and that's partly because of the lenses that I have. And I won't get into that, but I'm going to try an overhead. But the problem is that the side angle, I manipulate with my left hand. So the right side is better for the camera, but then my right hand is in the middle of it from time to time. So I don't know. I'd like to raise the right camera up higher, but I can't do that easily. I'd have to bring it in closer, and I have some issues with like benches in the way and such. So I don't know. I'm gonna keep practicing and trying and modifying it. I did move the camera to a new spot so that maybe it would be a better angle, and we'll see. I'll just talk about the Sculptamold just a little bit longer, since it's what I'm working on, and you might be curious about that. When I've been basing these, I have been keeping them on their bases rather than mounting them directly, and that has been partly due to the fact that getting some of the miniatures off the bases is really tricky without cutting off feet, say, because of course these have all, except for these, a lot of my miniatures that have been ported over. Here, a quick example. Okay, this is going to take me time, so I got to stop doing this. So these are my zombie trolls now. These are, I forget what they're called in Warhammer. And I'm not really super fond of these models. I wasn't super fond of them then, and I'm not super fond of them now. But in any case, so you can see, in order to get them free, I'd have to be cutting their feet off the base, and I don't know, it can be done. But whenever I've been using new models, I've just left them on their base because it's a nice tight bond, and I don't have to worry about pinning them or anything like that. I can't screw around too much here, though, because the Sculptamold will start to set up. It actually stays workable for quite a while, and even once it starts to set up, it's not, it's not like you can't continue to work it. And in fact, I've worked it, to say like smooth it or something like that, many minutes after it's really become, quite set. I don't want to, because it takes a long time to fully set. How's that? But its workability time shortens faster than its total set time. Does that make any sense? Like, say you got 10 minutes that you can actually push it around like this, but then you've got a half an hour where you can kind of like smooth it and wet your finger and do all of that stuff. Anyway, so what I've been doing is filling in between the bases, as you see here. I've been doing this all along the way, and I actually just started with one of my zombie units to actually, I cut a lot of the zombies off their bases. And the GW ones are pretty easy because, the old ones, although I think they're still they're like 25-year-old models or something. They're still the only zombies they have. Anyway, but they're easier to get off the base than most models because their feet were just kind of glued in on top. But like my Mantic models, they're really well joined to the base, so getting them apart is not really, it's not easy, and you're going to cause more damage. And with these horses, they only have a few small contact points, and I don't know if it's true. I figured, oh, come on. Like that. All right, let me fix this, and then we'll talk about the trays. You might be curious about that as well. I'm happy about this. This is not good. I hate super glue on my fingers. It just forms that weird, sheet, and it I don't know, bugs me tactily. All right. One more second here. Let that corner sit for a second. So maybe I should talk about the tray since I just had a little issue there. The trays I made using styrene. The bottom of the tray is 0.06 thick styrene sheet, and the lips are 0.03 styrene strips. I actually, for a while, I was actually cutting these strips from 0.03 sheets using a tool that I've purchased and haven't really talked about. It's the Duplicutter. I might have did a little review of it in the past. If I get to cutting strips today or cutting a sheet, I need to make a tray for my Legion of Zombies. If I get to that later today, maybe I'll fire up the cameras again, because that's a whole different thing, and it's something that I probably will never do again for quite some time. So, but in any case, when I have put the trays together, originally I was using super glue to bond them, and once I'm done with all of this fill, I mean, it's rock solid. Nobody's going anywhere. But until that point, I have had the styrene break away from itself, which is what just happened on that other corner. And so then, finally, I don't know, because remember, I'm a slow learner. I started using Plastilweld, right? It's a styrene bonder, right? So it melts it and then rehardens as a more as a weld joint. And I can't remember now if I did it with these. I think this is an old tray that I used super glue on, but I should have been using the styrene Plastruct. Plastruct's another brand, if you will, because once you make a bond like that, it's as solid as you're ever going to get out of a plastic bond. And I wasn't doing that originally, and like I said, it kind of doesn't make a difference, but it kind of does. Right now I'm using Model Master liquid cement for plastic models. It's great. Dispenser is great. Anyway, that's what I'm using right now. So I haven't worked on this army since probably the last tournament when I wanted to finish up some units to try to get my table ready. My army. And I have a lot that I'd like to get done for tomorrow because I really don't like playing with unpainted models, like at all. And I don't like fiddling with models falling off of trays, and I'm a terrible player. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I don't play well, and I don't need distractions while I'm playing. I don't need distractions. I have enough going on in my head. So I like to have everything neat, organized on the table. Got all my dice in the right spots, and I got all my units in the right spots, and everything's like not gonna slop around or get weird, or anyway. So the more I can get done today, the happier I'm going to be tomorrow. And I don't want to put in a super late night because I'd like to feel refreshed for tomorrow, but that's probably wishful thinking since I got up so stupid late today. See what I mean? It all starts, it's like a snowball effect. It's like, oh, I woke up late, I better stay up late. Oh, I gotta wake up late because I stayed up late. Oh. Used to be this commercial back in the Just Say No anti-drug campaign, if you remember Nancy Reagan and, of course, Ronnie Reagan. And it was a commercial about Coke, and it was this business guy or something, and he was like, I have to do more Coke so I can work harder, so I can make more money, so I can buy more Coke, so I can work harder, so I can make more money, like that. And he was like, I don't know, I think he had his head in his hands in his office or something. I was like, that's not really a very effective anti-drug campaign. But anyway, that's how my sleep cycle is going. It's terrible. It's terrible. I don't know. Anyway. The other thing I did for today's setup is I've tried to come in a little tighter, and I don't know how much tighter it's going to look. So, again, I'm still kind of playing with this. If I really want to, well, you know what? When Josh watches this, because I have a feeling he's going to watch this. If you haven't seen Josh's channel, go check his channel out. I've mentioned him many times in the past. He does sculpting videos, and he does so much nice work on his videos, adding in, effects and, multiple camera angles. And it's just, I know he puts a lot of time into his videos, and I appreciate it, and I think you will too. There was talk, I got some other feedback, and I'm sorry I can't remember your name. I'm really bad with names. It's in person, I'm bad with names. Anyway, why was I talking about that? Anyway, so I got another suggestion from one of you to, maybe do it as a live Q&A, or to do it as like, I was thinking like on Twitch. And I started to really think about that more. And then another patron, one of you, wonderful. I love you guys. I can't say it enough. Sometimes it's a little isolating, which I don't mind. I mean, I'm not somebody who craves social interaction, and if you know me, you know that's an understatement. But you feel like, to me, like you're part of the studio. So you hold a special place in that regard as well. But in any case, Twitch, Q&As. And so one of you also then mentioned later that, that when you've watched people on Twitch, for instance, they don't get a lot of work done because they're so distracted trying to, answer people's questions and read the screen and comment. And that's been something I've been really, afraid of. I don't need any. Camera stopped recording, so I'll try to pick up where I left off. So then I was thinking, well, if I did an hour a week, does it really matter if I don't get a lot done during that hour? So maybe not, maybe that is something I could do. But it kind of actually goes hand in hand with the topic here I am. I said, I'm going to talk about armies, and instead I'm talking about videos, and I don't know. Anyway, I'm going to keep going with this for a second more. If I want to do streams like that, DSLRs are not optimum. I'm not sure why. I did a little bit of research on this a ways back, and it seemed like that's not a go. So there again, that video camera situation starts to come in. But let's just say for a second that I could do it, say with a DSLR. Let's say it's not a problem, and I could do that. And it'd be good to have one of the cameras instead as just like a really good quality webcam, right? Because it sounds crazy, I almost want 3 shots for that, but I'd be happy with 2. And so then there's software to integrate both those cameras into the feed. And then there's, like the whole setup for Twitch, which doesn't look that difficult, but it does have some stuff going on I'd have to look at. So there's software integration. I want to use as much of the equipment that I already have as possible. How would I tap my Rode video mic into a webcam? Which webcam would be optimum for that? If I need a dedicated video camera, what would be a good choice, within a certain price range. All of that stuff takes time to research. And I've mentioned this in the past in some of my posts. I research the out of stuff. I can't not do it. It's just me. I can't do it. So I'm like, I don't think I have the time to do that research. It would take me, I would spend probably 20 or more hours sleuthing all of this out without exaggeration. And maybe even more because, finding out optimum equipment, and then I'd research all the brands, and then, with software, oh my God, is there more than one option? Which one's easiest to use? Which ones would pay? How much are they? Blah, 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 blah. So these are some of the hurdles to why I haven't done some of these things. And it occurred to me that if somebody out there was like, I got this. This is really easy, Mike. You don't even need that. You don't need this. All you need is this. This is great video, footage. Look at the quality here. This is what this person uses. Go take a look at their videos, blah, blah, blah. Right? If I had somebody like that who just pointed me in the direction and said, okay, it's $100. Why did that stop? So battery died and the other camera stopped. And I have to keep both cameras synchronized for the 2-camera edit because it becomes a real issue if the 2 cameras aren't really well overlapped for their footage. And I won't get into that, but let me just say I've done it once and I'm like, never again. All right. Oh, jeez. So just to finish what I was saying, that you know, if somebody out there wanted to take on that research, I don't know, or just know it. You know, if you're kind of like, I got this down, Mike, I can just point you in the direction. Here, for $150, here's the gear, you know, to work with what you have. You know, like I would give a list. Here's all the stuff I have, and then I'm good to go. I think I would go onto Twitch. I know some people have wanted to make donations but don't want to do it through Patreon, so Twitch's tip system would work for that. And I again think, you know, as I get more comfortable with seeing people work, like I came right up to speed today on this, that you know, that it wouldn't be necessarily an impediment, although it does add that whole new element of like, oh, hi, John 476. What kind of beer do I like to drink? Well, you know, like, I don't know. But I would try it. I would do it, actually. I won't try it, because if I make any kind of a money investment, I'm doing it. That's why when I got this Rode mic, I'm like, I'm going to shoot some video at the bench, because if I don't, I'm going to be pissed that I spent $200 on a mic that I'm not using. Something like that. So, anyway, there's tech talk for today. Not what I expected to go over, but I'm just hanging out at the bench, you know? All right. Now, I don't need to get this super flat, but I like to get it pretty flat because I think it'll look a little weird if there's big undulations, but the bases are all, you know, flat. It's just like waves between them. That's not going to look good. And some of you might wonder about why I'm not taking the opportunity to maybe do something more dynamic, like, you know, put a horse coming off of a rock, or, you know, something like that. And believe you me, when I first moved to Kings of War, I thought right away that that's how I was going to base my models. And then I realized I am just barely able to get things based for the next coming tournament. just keeping it as short and quick as I can. So that's why I'm not doing that. And I often think someday I might come back and rework some of the bases, right? It's never too late to add something to them. You know, maybe some dead twigs, or you know, some bushes, or I don't know, grasses. Like that's all probably going to happen someday if I keep playing, but not for tomorrow, because I didn't even think I was going to have to paint this unit, because I have 5. These are wraiths. I have 5 Mantic wraiths, maybe 6 painted, and I was in the old. Oh, when I was using them in Warhammer, that's what it is. You only needed 3 in a unit. They ran as skirmishers, and I was thinking that way for adding them to this list. I was like, oh god, you know, that's perfect. I only need 3. I can just pick the 3 that aren't damaged and dinged, and you know. And then while I was starting to put my army together, and you know, think about what needed to be based, and I took 3 of them out, and I'm looking at them on the table, and I'm thinking, wait a minute, there's supposed to be a troop, and a troop has 10 models. And I was like, do I need 10 of these? Of course I looked in the rules. Of course you do, bonehead. So, yeah, this is the first time I'll be fielding whites in my army. This is the undead. Should be probably fairly obvious, but just to mention it. So then I was like, oh crap, and I couldn't paint 4 more because they won't match the ones I have, because I can't remember how I painted them. I painted those like 5 years ago probably. And so I was like, oh, it's gonna be really quick. I'll just airbrush the primer, airbrush the white, you know. And then I'm finding that when I try to rush using my airbrush, I'm like, oh, it doesn't really matter what the viscosity is. I'll just crank up the pressure because I'm not trying to get clean lines or worry about, being tight with it. And I end up spending, I think, more time with it because it's not spraying properly. I've got this crappy mixture of paint. I don't have it dialed in. It's not spraying right. It's too thin. So I have to make multiple coats, or it's too thick. Now it's clogging. Or, this unit was the real moment where I said, you're done doing that. I don't care what you're about to paint. Take the time and set it up right, because then painting with the airbrush is a joy. And instead, yesterday, I was pissed. And it took me quite a while to base these with primer. And it took me quite a while to coat them in white. And I didn't do a very good job of cleaning the mold lines. And there's a guy in our club who's, I love him. He's younger. I think he must be in maybe his mid-20s now. And he gives me a world of about not cleaning my mold lines. And in some ways, I totally get it, I'm like, because our club kind of prides itself on the quality of us as players in general. Awesome sportsmen, awesome painters, good gamers, good players, and so it is kind of like, Mike, clean those mold lines. However, again, I'm just feeling lucky to get these done. And I did clean some of the mold lines. And I just want to say that these models, so these are the new, they're not new really, but they're maybe they're version 2.0 of their wraiths. And they were originally casting them in metal, and then they moved to plastic. And the mold lines on these models are horrible. They're horrible, because they cut across all of these areas that are super hard to clean. So I don't know if you'll be able to see if it's in focus, right? So the way this cuts across all of this in here, it's just a bitch. Like I even tried to get in and clean some of those a little bit, like real quick. Unbelievable. And the mold line that comes right across the tuft like that, like Jesus. These are, like I said, these are older models from Mantic, and I think when they adapted them from the metal to the plastic, it just, it just didn't, they didn't redo them in terms of the sculpt to make molding them better regarding mold lines. I think that's probably what it was. But I was like, screw it. I can't spend, 5 hours cleaning up this unit. God, I may never even field it again. And I'm only playing once a year as it is. So I was like, screw it. Just get them on the table and just tell Peyton that his viewing distance must be restricted to 4 feet from my display board. He's not allowed to get closer than that. I'm going to have to tell him that. That's your minimum. That's your minimum safe viewing distance. So all right, I'm going to try and stay focused. I was going to go somewhere else, but I did say I'd talk about armies and painting and gaming in general, maybe. But this army was supposed to be my lightning fast build. I was like, I'm tired of trying to win painting awards. I really just want to play something different. I love the undead, and I'm just going to, rip this army out. So, almost all of the models are basically just a paint and a wash, and there are a few that got more effort. The zombie trolls I just showed you, those got crypt horrors. That's what they used to be. Those got a little extra love, and trying to think. And my characters, I always try to spend more time on my characters, even if I'm trying to, crank out something. But where am I going with that? Oh, so that was my goal, is to just rip them out and get them on the table and be able to play it. And I have a love of the zombies, just for thematics, really. And I just want to say, I was into zombies before zombies were a thing. I'm OG on zombies, all right? This whole, now that people have spoiled them, they're just like, ugh, they're everywhere now. But in any case, what was I talking about? So, for instance, just doing these guys as a, basically as a dip dry brush, in essence, that's kind of what it is. That's fine in terms of matching the army as a whole. And I've often thought, someday that I could go back and, oh, I remember I was talking about zombies. 1 second though. I could go back and add highlights to them. A little trickier to reach some of the areas, but because none of the models get moved off the base, there's a lot of areas you're not going to scrutinize really. And if you just, did some of the highlights, top down, that would add a lot when you're looking at them from a table view, and that's totally doable. So someday I may come back and do that kind of work on this army, but I don't know. Things are changing in the gaming scene, I should say. And I don't go to game stores and play. I don't go out of my way to play, because I do so many things. It's just, there's a limit to what one man can do, and I have so many priorities that, oftentimes that doesn't fit into, my plans for the weekend, let's say. So this may become a sort of like pick it up a couple times a year army. And in that case, spending a bunch of time cleaning mold lines is definitely not something I want to deal with. All right, I can see that the cameras are about to cut out, which means it's been almost an hour. So maybe a little more with that short there, that battery dying. So I'm going to wrap it up here in terms of this video. But I have a lot of work to do today. And if the client sees this video, I hope he'll forgive me for adding yet another delay to the orc project, because I don't feel good about it. I don't know. This was distracting me so much that one day I was just standing in the studio for 15 minutes thinking, what the hell should I do? Should I work on my army? The tournament's coming up. What should I do? Should I just play it the way it is? But I hate it. And I want models falling all over the place. But I'm not getting enough work done on the orc board. And I got so much progress done in the last 2 weeks. So I don't know. This is what I decided to do. Right or wrong. Good idea, bad idea. And those are some of the reasons why. So, but I'm going to leave all this stuff set up. And I do need to make a tray for my zombie legion. Ooh, I can't wait to field that. And if I do that, I'm going to turn the cameras back on, and we'll do maybe a short one, maybe another full-length one, and let you guys see some of that process, because again, it's something a little bit unusual that you really wouldn't get a chance to see otherwise. All right, so thanks for checking it out, and I'll see you. So I hope you enjoyed the new Join Me at the Bench. I always say JMAB, and I dropped the T, and I don't know why, but it just, JMAB, the T doesn't fit. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed it. I always welcome feedback, but particularly with this format, if there's things that you really liked about it, or maybe some elements that you would maybe like to see changed, feel free, leave those comments down below. Viewer comments. Scott Holmes writes, what do I use to base my buildings, the board that I use to base my buildings on? And he was referencing, I if I recall correctly, some of the Imperial, whoa, Imperial Citadel GW buildings. I'm missing a word in there, I know it. Those are based just on hardboard, and hardboard is available at any of your local, probably like big box hardware stores. It's higher density than MDF, so it's in some ways it's very similar to MDF, but it is a higher density. But it's nice because it's cheap, it's easy to cut. You can cut it with a jigsaw or a table saw, or and then I grind down the edges on a belt sander to get a little bit of either a bevel or a smooth curve. So that's the material that I've been using in the past. Josh Foreman wanted to make a clarification. He wanted to make a clarification. He made a clarification. He probably doesn't want me to put it up here. I'm doing it anyway, because I love Josh. He was saying that he didn't love the cocktail segment. He loved that I loved the cocktail segment, which is a fine distinction, but noteworthy and should be fully addressed. But he did add something else that I thought was interesting, that he felt creators are encouraged, pressured, told that they should, distill their content down into, a major thing. Like, don't do other stuff. Don't blend stuff in. And I think there is merit there, because obviously my videos are now quite long with my cocktails and the viewer comments, but that's why I've been putting in the timestamps. I want to make sure that you can get to where you want. And if you don't want one of my slices, that is fine. Go to the ones that you like. So, but I do agree with him in that when creators put stuff in, it's a little bit about what interests them. And I like that in other people. I like to get a behind-the-scenes look at somebody, in essence. So I wanted to support him in championing that. Don't be afraid. Don't be afraid to add something a little fresh. And Till Brainman wrote asking about painting wood textures. And I wrote a column on Patreon. I have monthly columns. Some of you may not be aware. I have been writing a monthly column almost every month. Really, just about every month until this year, and I fell a little bit behind. But they are publicly viewable up to some of the recent ones, and I changed them over to be reward tier level. And there is one on painting wood textures, and I wrote it quite a while back in 2015. So it's, if you go to Patreon, my page, you will see go to posts, there will be a column of tags, and you can pick a tag, and it will take you to all the posts that I have with that. So if you go to the monthly column tag, it will take you to all of those. The problem is there's quite a few of them, and it's not very easy to kind of find some of the older ones. So before I fix this, just scroll down. Till. Just scroll down, and you will find it. Or there's a tag that says wood, and if you go there, there's only 3 things in that category right now, and one of them is that Muntry? Jesus. I wish I had 2 of these in here just to give me an excuse to mumble my way through these things. And so that is probably the best resource I can give you. And I always encourage people who go and read the monthly columns, if you have a question that it doesn't answer, something you wanted to know more about, let me know, and I can, go back and amend them, or, I want them to be as educational as possible. So there's, there's like 30 of them that are publicly viewable. So if you go to my Patreon page and you click on monthly columns, you can go and sort through a whole bunch of them. I'm constantly telling people to go take a look at them because they answer a lot of basic questions I get often, and that's why I started writing them, was to be able to help people with some of these most common questions. So go take a look at those. Let me know. So I think that wraps it up. Hopefully in post I can trim it down just a hair. But if you stayed all the way through, or if you're just joining me for the end, thank you so much for joining me. I really appreciate all of you taking the time to watch my videos. It's hugely rewarding for me, and I hope that you will be returning because you know that I will be returning soon. I mumbled that a little bit too. I don't know, am I nervous? With another Terranscapes video.